How much time should we expect Jeremy Chinn to spend at safety? I'll tell you right here on Locked On Panthers.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Get into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for one final week of off-season mode. Then we're back to your team every day, our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network, starting off on Monday the 17th. Subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, on Twitter at Julian Council, where on Friday of next week, I'll be back with the weekly Friday mailbag show here on the Locked On Panthers podcast. Either at me or DM me over on Twitter to get those questions into me. Now, we're back at it again. One more defensive position group breakdown. We're going to be talking safeties today. Then we're going to wrap it up on Friday talking about the special teams unit. But safeties, that is our main focus. Spent a lot of time on Monday talking about the corners. And I mean, I'm kind of looking back on it. It sounds pretty negative. But guys, Dante and JC have not been healthy. I said when they're healthy, they're good players. The problem is they have not been reliable the last couple of years. And I hate saying the guys are injury prone because no one is trying to get injured. It's the game of football. It's inherently dangerous. Like, these guys are grown men. They are physical specimens, all that. But still, their bodies can break down. And JC has had bad luck. Dante, he's also, of course, had bad luck. He's not out there trying to tear his Achilles, man. It's just stuff that happens. So my hope is both those guys are healthy going into the season, and that the backups, if called upon, and likely when called upon, they can improve dramatically from the last time we saw CJ Henderson and Keith Taylor. So excited about the possibility of what JC Horn can look like if completely healthy this year. And then same thing with Dante Jackson there next to him. Can we just get that pairing for like 13, 14 games this season? I'm not asking for 17, but 13, 14, let's be realistic, just based off of their latest injury history. I'd be happy about that. But that's what we talked about on Monday. So let's talk about the corners now today. And really, we're talking a lot of Jeremy Chinn. Biggest story about the biggest name. Looks like Jeremy Chinn's going to play less safety. Maybe I could have put Jeremy Chinn in the cornerback discussion or in linebacker, where I actually did mention him in both the linebacker and the cornerback shows, because he's not going to spend his entire time at safety. And even in the last couple of seasons, he hasn't fully played safety in 21 and in 22. He's moved around. And Phil Snow, when he was the defensive coordinator here in Carolina, did a really good job of moving Chinn around and utilizing his talent, where we saw his rookie year in 2020 out of necessity. When they still had Trey Boston, when Justin Burris was back at safety, the Carolina Panthers started Jeremy Chinn out linebacker, playing more of an outside linebacker. And he was second in the AP Defensive Rookie of the Year voting. And you look at it, probably should have won it. He had 2 touchdowns that year. He was fantastic at linebacker for the Panthers, and had people wondering, oh, is this a position that he's going to play throughout his entire career? He had a career best 117 tackles that season, along with those 2 touchdowns in that Minnesota Vikings game. Then the following year, Phil Stones talks about for his longevity, Jeremy Chinn's longevity, he felt like his natural position, the position he should settle in, should be more as a safety, just to protect his body. As, of course, hey, man, you're going in there playing linebacker, maybe not the typical linebacker size, although big dude, you don't want to have that wear and tear that those linebackers have to suffer. So you'd be better off at safety. So it's really been a debate. You saw his first year at safety was still pretty good, had over 100 tackles. Only other players in Carolina Panthers history to have 100 tackles in their first 2 seasons are Luke Kuechly, who's going to have a bust in Canton, and John Beeson, who's a great player in his own right in the NFL. So Jeremy Chinn did what those guys did. Then last year, first time in his career where he suffered some injuries, had the hamstring, cost him a ton of games, but came out overall and was a solid player a year ago in Carolina playing at safety. But now he's going to play a little bit of safety, can play a little bit of big nickel, maybe even some linebacker. If Ejiro Evero, the DC here in Carolina, is not willing to say what he's going to do, I'm looking at him, I'm seeing a guy like Derwin James, and I feel like that's kind of the position that Jeremy Chinn could play this upcoming season in Carolina. He's going to be a master of none, which is honestly fantastic and exactly what I would want to see, because you want your playmakers to be in position to, well, make plays. And the Panthers coaching staff came in here, and I imagine Scott Pitter was a part of the evaluation as well. And they looked at it and it's like, you know what? We can maximize Jeremy Chinn and this defense as a whole by utilizing him closer to the line of scrimmage, which is the expectation going into the year. Now, I talk about it's been a debate the last couple of years amongst Panther fans of what's his better position. Is he better at linebacker or at safety? Now, his worst year in pass coverage was in 2020 as a rookie, playing, I guess, naturally out of position at linebacker, where he allowed a 115.5 passer rating when targeted and gave up 6 touchdowns. Then when he moved back to safety in 2021, it went down, still not spectacular, but he allowed a 105.3 passer rating when targeted and allowed 5 touchdowns. So over his first 2 years, had a 105 plus passer rating when targeted and allowed 11 touchdowns combined. But then last year, his best year in coverage, playing primarily at safety, did miss a couple games. He allowed a 93.2 rating and 0 touchdowns. So when you look at it in coverage, not the best. And that has been the one knock on Jeremy Chinn. If you're going to play safety, especially in the NFL, and you're going to play on a good defense and you're going to play safety, you're going to have to be better in coverage. And Jeremy Chinn going to have to improve in coverage, and I think that he will. They'll find a way to really get him in this situation where maybe his coverage responsibilities aren't what they were the last couple of seasons, and I think that's part of why they want to bring him close to the line of scrimmage. And when you compare what Jeremy Chinn did last season to what Vonn Bell did last year in Cincinnati on an excellent defense that for the second straight year made it all the way to the AFC Championship game, Vonn Bell last year, when targeted, allowed a 64 passer rating and gave up a goose egg and touchdowns. So Vonn Bell was a much better safety than Jeremy Chinn was last year, and Jeremy Chinn's best year as a safety and best year in coverage, although he played fewer games. So who knows what it would have looked like had he been able to stay healthy and play 16 or 17 games last season in 2022. So looking at it for the Panthers, it feels like the best thing for Chinn is to get him in more of a playmaking role and less and keeping him out of coverage, at least not primarily in coverage. And then also bringing in Vonn Bell, who last year was spectacular in coverage, was a team captain, and be someone who's a veteran, really help out this team and be able to maximize what the Carolina Panthers could do defensively heading into the 2022 season. So if Jeremy Chinn's going to be playing less safety, just how much safety will he actually be playing in Carolina? That's one big question a lot of people have. And we'll discuss it here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So draft prep underway for the upcoming season. Let's see who Vinny has picked out for us this week. eBay's guaranteed fit fantasy picks of the week. And of course, no surprise, he's taking Justin Jefferson, an absolute monster with the Minnesota Vikings. Justin Jefferson is one of the first wide receivers we've seen to beat a running back as the first overall pick on this year's fantasy draft board, with an outstanding quarterback in Kirk Cousins and an easy schedule for the first half of the season, not counting the Panthers game, of course. Jefferson is going to be a lock for every fantasy lineup. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows the championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With eBay Guaranteed Fit and over 122 million parts and accessories for your vehicle right at your fingertips, you can make sure your rides run smoothly. Air filters, brakes, batteries, taillights, alternators, shocks, struts, you name it, eBay Motors has it, and it'll make sure it's the right fit for your car, because eBay Guaranteed Fit helps you understand exactly what part you need for your vehicle the first time. So go forth, switch gears, crank the AC, and say goodbye to sweating if your ride needs a little fixing up, because now you know you'll always be set up for success from the get-go. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, everything your vehicle is calling for is just a click away. For the parts and accessories that fit your vehicle, just look for the green check. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices at ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. So welcome to Carolina Vonn Bell, and thank you for coming to Carolina Vonn Bell, because this now allows Jammie Chinn, one of the better defensive players here the last couple of seasons, and really one of the building blocks for the Carolina Panthers. It allows him to play a more natural play-making position. Vonn Bell going to be at safety a ton. You would think Xavier Woods, who was a fine pickup last offseason, will also be playing a lot of safety. So how much safety will Jammie Chinn play? Because if you bring in Vonn Bell, who's coming off of back-to-back years, going to the Super Bowl, then the AFC title game, I don't think you're going to want that guy to not play pretty much every safety snap. And Xavier Woods, who was really good last year and was healthy and has been like really an Iron Man the last couple of seasons in Minnesota and in Carolina, you probably don't want to take him off the field as well. But you need Jammie Chinn to be on the field. You don't want to have Jammie Chinn not playing a ton of snaps. You want to have Jammie Chinn in a situation where he can still play a little bit of safety, but he also could play maybe linebacker, play that big nickel spot, just be on the field. Find a way to utilize Jammie Chinn. So I would expect that all three of those guys will be on the field a ton, and that it will not, one will not have to suffer because the other needs to be on. And of course, you see certain situations where you're going to change roles up, where maybe you got to take Vonn Bell off the field, which I would still don't think that's going to happen very much, but maybe Xavier Woods might be the one who's taken off the field a little bit, or even Jammie Chinn, just depending on what the look is they're getting from the offense and what exactly the coverage and scheme that they're trying to run here in Carolina. But it opens up a ton of possibilities now that Vonn Bell is here and Jammie Chinn is going to be playing in this more, playmaker role, which we still don't know about. It is funny when they have these press conferences with the media and then the coaches refuse to answer any questions. That's why I really appreciated Thomas Brown, the former running back coach, but the OC here in Carolina, former running back. He was tight end coach last year in LA with the Rams, but now the OC, he was actually willing to answer a lot of questions and actually take people inside what the Panthers are trying to accomplish. Now, he's not going to give up everything that they're going to do this upcoming season, but he did let you, the fan, and the listener and the media know, hey, that's kind of what we're trying to do. This is like our accomplishments. These are like our tenets and all that kind of stuff, where Ejiro Evero, no, I'm not going to tell you guys really anything. Yeah, Jammie Chinn, good player. Next question. Yeah, we'll see how much he's going to play. Next question. He didn't want to give up anything at all. So it's really hard when asking this question, which I feel like is the biggest question about the position group, is how much safety is Chinn going to play? Because coaching staff hasn't really let us know how much he's going to play. I would imagine he'll still play enough. But as I just mentioned, you don't want to take Woods off the field too much. You don't want to take Vonn Bell off the field really at all. And, of course, you need Jammie Chinn to be on the field. Now, the good thing is if you have JC and you have Dante healthy, those are your two outside corners. You could have CJ Henderson, and the talk was last season. I'm sure it's probably changed with this new coaching staff. What talk was last season when those top three corners are healthy, JC could be kicked in to play inside in the slot. For now, you probably can put Jammie Chinn out there inside of the slot. And I don't know if Woods or if Bell have the capabilities to play in the slot, but maybe that's a possibility for the Carolina Panthers heading this year. I also talked about how looking on some pass rushing downs and the fact that Frankie Louvu last year had 7 sacks, and he's probably projected to be an inside linebacker this year. Why don't you find a way to bring in Jammie Chinn at inside linebacker and then kick Frankie Louvu out there to outside and be more of an edge rusher? So it gives him a possibility to do a lot of different things with Jammie Chinn. We just don't know how much safety he's going to play this upcoming season. He spent his rookie year, as I mentioned, at linebacker before moving to safety the past 2 seasons, and with Vonn Bell being here and playing a really strong safety position last year in Cincinnati alongside Jesse Bates, you would imagine that he would be out there playing a ton of safety again this upcoming year. Now, Jammie Robinson is also someone you could expect to see on the field this year in Carolina. The 5th-round pick out of Florida State, started off his career at South Carolina. He is an undersized safety, but had a ton of tackles, 100 tackles back-to-back years. First team All-ACC at FSU the last 2 seasons. He's, in a way, a Jammie Chinn light because he can play in the nickel. And if Jammie Chinn was going to go down, I would think that he would be the one who would come in and likely play those Jammie Chinn snaps. Not all of them, because they would probably utilize some other players more who have more experience. But Robinson is someone already that Dante Jackson has looked at and said a lot of great things about, and the coaching staff has talked pretty glowingly about him thus far. And he's someone I do think who can really help the team, in particular, if they want to get Jammie Chinn to blow. It can be kind of that Chinn light in that position, playing kind of that safety and playing whatever Chinn's going to be playing this year as a playmaker, a guy who could also be close to the line of scrimmage. So not quite sure how much or how little safety Jeremy Chinn will be playing, but I am excited to see just exactly how they're going to utilize him this upcoming season. All right, we'll take another quick pause and come back and look at the rest of the position group at safety here in Carolina in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. We had a conversation on Monday about the depth at corner and how deep it really was. And I brought up how Jeremy Chinn, Jammie Robinson, some guys like that can come in and help them in the slot at nickel. So that kind of helps out with corner. And really the question is the depth at outside corner. If you look at the entirety of the roster, which we've been doing the last 3 weeks, this may be the deepest position group. After not too long ago, there were questions about what was behind the safety group. And you look at when Matt Rule first got here in 2020 and where the safety room is today. You got Trey Boston, who everyone loves Trey Boston. Trey Boston, just, fine player, nothing really all that special, but enjoyed watching Trey play. But he's okay. And then you had Justin Burris, who, was just fine as well. And you get rid of Trey, you got Burris back, and it's Chinn. Then you get rid of Burris, bring him back as far as a backup position, and then it's Chinn and Woods. And then now it's Woods, Chinn, and Vonn Bell. Safety position is in a great position after, I think it's probably the best safety group you can think about since probably 2015 when you had Roman Harper here, Kurt Coleman, who was a Pro Bowler. I would think that's going to be the best safety room that the Panthers have had since that time. And I think Trey Boston probably was on the roster too, a young Trey Boston. So things have been, they haven't been that great. They've been fine, but this is the best the safety room has looked in a very, very long time here in Carolina. So Chinn, Bell, Woods, expect those guys to play a ton of snaps. And when you bring in a guy like Jammie Robinson, who you draft in the 5th round out of Florida State, who has played a lot of safety, who's been able to play nickel, he can even play corner if you need him to, and is really, in a way, a headhunter at an undersized. He's a good player. You got him to develop, and I would expect him to have a role in this defense. I don't know how big of a role, but he'll find a way on the field. I'm very confident that he'll find a way on the field. And he also has Sam Franklin, who hasn't played a ton at safety, but he's developed into a decent backup. And that's the thing of, like, if Chinn goes down, you have Robinson or Franklin can come in. It's saying if Bell goes down, you can move Chinn back, and you might have to change some things up defensively. Like, they have opportunities and options to move some guys around if there's going to be any sort of injuries. And that's where you want to be. I look at offensive line, and we've talked about it. At O-line, if something happens to Icky, you or Taylor Moton, you now have Cam Irving. Good thing they brought him back. We've already seen Austin Corbett, he's out. You have Cade Mays. Justin McCray could go in there. Same thing if Bozeman goes down, McCray could slide over and be the center. You got Chandler Zavala. They have a lot of depth on the offensive line in Carolina this year. Running back, I think it's, there's only about probably 3 guys. Wide receiver, there's more options. I don't know how quality the options really are this year, but still there's more options. And in tight end, there's, I think, more. If Hurst goes down, I don't think we feel all that great about the pass catching tight end options. But then again, Tommy Trimble is saying, hey, they didn't really teach us how to run routes, the previous coaching staff. So that should obviously improve going into the season. So really looking at across the board, this outside of offensive line has to be the deepest position group on the roster here in Carolina. Based off of, like, Chinn's been excellent, whether he's had to play linebacker, whether he's played safety, hasn't always been the best in coverage, but he's been really good. He's been a reliable player for the most part outside of last year where he was injured. Vonn Bell was fantastic in Cincinnati, was good in New Orleans as well. A player who was a captain, a great leader. Hayden Hurst talked about, hey, one of the best guys I know. And the fact that he was a captain in Cincinnati, when you think about all the guys you have in Cincinnati, like you got Burrow, Bates is a great player in his own right. Trey Hendrickson, as good as that team was, and the amount of players you would think, okay, who could be a captain? And at Vonn Bell, who I think would have been probably one of the least heralded nationally of the players there in Cincinnati, that he was a captain, and the fact that the Panthers were able to get him on the open market to now be here, and wouldn't be surprised just based off of what everything's been said about him if he ends up also being a captain for the Carolina Panthers this season. That is a great situation for the Panthers to be in, to have Vonn Bell here. Xavier Woods didn't miss a snap all year in Minnesota, comes back last year in Carolina. Fantastic player, especially when you had Jeremy Chinn out for those weeks, that he was able to hold it down there at safety. Then Jammie Robinson, already talked about he was able to do it at Florida State, and the expectations I have for him to come in and to be an immediate contributor. May not be, playing a lot of snaps because of the guys ahead of him, but someone I do expect to factor into the safety room. And then Sam Franklin only getting better, core special teamer. Have to feel good about him being back here, not just special teams wise, but also, hey, he's here. He's a role guy who stuck around on merit and is now getting an opportunity to potentially get more snaps at safety in this rotation heading into the season. And the final guy, Miles Dorn, who is a Charlotte area guy, went to North Carolina. He is the other safety on the roster and probably more of a camp body. Would be great for Miles Dorn if he is able to make the practice squad. So that's kind of where we're looking at with the safeties. Outside of offensive line, probably the deepest and maybe already the deepest position group on the roster for the Carolina Panthers heading into 2023. All right, it's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours truly, Julian Council. Again, y'all subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, on Twitter at Julian Council, where next Friday on the 21st, the weekly Friday mailbag is back. Either at me or DM me on Twitter at Julian Council to get those questions into me now. In the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole. As always, keep pounding. And I'll be back on Friday for our final position group evaluation. We're talking about special teams, y'all. Steady Eddie De Niro, and JJ Jansen forever. That coming up on Friday on Locked On Panthers.